Assassin's Creed Origins has been out for a good while now. I've completed the main story, I've done a good chunk of the side activities in the game, so I've basically experienced everything the game has to offer. Now, I know that I said I was going to do my review for Assassin's Creed Origins as soon as possible, and that time has come. I just want to say that this review is going to be full of spoilers, so if you haven't finished the game, then I recommend skipping the sections when I talk about the story of the game. I'm not going to be doing none of those spoiler-free reviews and then doing another fucking review like some people are doing. I'm just going to get straight into the spoilers and doing my full spoiler review of Assassin's Creed Origins. As of editing this video right now, I have no idea how long it's going to be, but I could wager it's going to be quite a sizable video, so I'm going to say sit back, relax, and enjoy my review of Assassin's Creed Origins. The open world of Assassin's Creed Origins really is something to be admired. If there's anything this game can be praised on, it's the open world. Not only the beauty of it, but also the animal ecosystems, the citizens and how they have their own day-night cycle. The game world just feels like it's completely breathing and it's alive constantly. It's not just a beautiful recreation of ancient Egypt that leaves me in awe every time I see over a landscape, or I come out of a tomb and see the desert sands stretching as far as the eye can see. It's not just a beautiful game. The open world of Assassin's Creed Origins is ripe with content. There's loads of NPCs to interact with. There's lots of different hidden secrets. There's so much to uncover in the world of ancient Egypt, and you're definitely not going to find yourself getting bored exploring this huge, vast game world. After all, it's half of ancient Egypt. We have half a country here to explore, and they're only going to be adding more with DLC in the future, so there is a lot of content here. Although I'm going to talk about the side content of the game later on in this review. The Origins team have done a fantastic job of recreating ancient Egypt in the time period of the game. Obviously, it's not 100% accurate. No historical setting can be 100% accurate because we don't know exactly what it looked like at the time, although this is extremely accurate, and it is absolutely stunning. The colors are vibrant, especially in the places where there's lots of water. The cities look awesome. The deserts look amazing with this golden sand as you're traveling across them. And I've got to say, the open world in Assassin's Creed Origins is probably the best open world we've had in the whole Assassin's Creed series. Because not only is it absolutely beautiful, not only is it huge, but it contains the best array of content we've seen in Assassin's Creed. It's got meaningful side quests. It has lots of different bandit camps for you to do in the open world, lots of enemies to kill, and lots of gear to collect in the open world. I wouldn't say the overall open world experience is as in-depth as a game like The Witcher 3, but I definitely think that this open world has a higher sense of exploration and a higher scale overall that The Witcher 3 simply doesn't have. Assassin's Creed Origins definitely has one of the most impressive open worlds I've seen in any game, and I absolutely love it. It's one of the best features of the game. The combat in Assassin's Creed Origins definitely is a touchy subject for many people. It's kind of like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. I definitely understand both sides. I, for one, really like the combat, although if you dislike it, I definitely can see why. It's not without its flaws. The combat is definitely one of the gameplay forefronts in Assassin's Creed Origins. This is shown because as soon as you're dropped into the game, you're put into this combat sequence with a boss, literally as soon as you load the game up. And this is basically just a tutorial that lets you know basically everything about the combat, which I think is pretty useful. At the time, I had no idea what I was doing. I was kind of just flailing around, dodging every now and then. I didn't really know the correct buttons or combinations to use to do the most damage to this enemy, but it did give me the basics to then start crafting the way I fight. Many people are against these types of tutorials in games, and I'm okay with them as long as they help me, which this one did. However, the only downside of this beginning of the game is that it kind of turned into this extended tutorial that lasted quite a a long time and ended up being kind of boring. This is a problem with many open world games. They tend to have a tutorial that tries to tell you how to do everything in the game instead of letting you work out certain things for yourself. That's why the beginning of Assassin's Creed Origins was kind of boring in a way in my eyes. Obviously, the novelty of playing a new Assassin's Creed game kind of overpowered this for me, but I can definitely see why people would think the beginning of AC Origins was kind of boring in a sense. Because not only did it hand everything to you on a plate and there was tutorials scattered everywhere, but it was kind of basically sending you on a wild goose chase to do some lower level quests that really didn't feel awfully important whatsoever. But we're not talking about this now, we're talking about the combat. Personally, I feel as if the combat system is one of the best we've had in the Assassin's Creed series. Now, it doesn't look the best, definitely. It's janky in some places, it's very rigid, sometimes it looks a bit ridiculous, but it is functional, which is what I would prefer over an animation-based system, because Assassin's Creed Origins has adopted a hitbox-based system, which is common in many RPGs. Obviously, a hitbox-based system isn't exclusive to RPGs. I'm just saying games like The Witcher 3 and Skyrim both have a hitbox-based combat system, and so does Assassin's Creed Origins. Obviously, as we know, the Assassin's Creed Origins combat system is what is known as a shift in paradigm. So I did the meme. Do you get it? It's a Ashraf Ismail meme. I did a.
We've drastically changed the paradigm.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, though, we love you, Ashraf Ismail. Oh, that was a kiss. The combat system this time around is a whole lot more difficult. They focused on making the enemies smarter, making the enemies more powerful, and making you have to use more strategy to be able to beat your opponents. I personally really like this new change in the combat system. It's a lot better than the older combat system in Assassin's Creed, where you could just string a bunch of combos together and completely fuck up everyone in the fight. Now it actually takes a certain degree of strategy and skill, which is a lot more enjoyable than just simply mowing down everyone. I think the combat system works incredibly well, not only for normal enemies, but also for the various different bosses you find in the game, not only in the open world, but also in the story. I really do like these bosses. You have a bunch of bosses in the main story, you also have the Phylakes in the open world, and yes, I fucking pronounced it right this time. You also have the war elephants, and then there's finally the enemies you find in the gladiator arena. So there's not a shortage of bosses to fight in Assassin's Creed Origins. This just makes the combat system that much more useful in the game, because a lot of the high level gear, you get it from killing enemies and bosses in the open world. So if you do want to get the high level gear, you're going to have to become a little bit better at the combat system. So there is a very big emphasis on combat in Assassin's Creed Origins, and it just shows the amount of effort and time they put into crafting this system. Fair enough, it might not be the best. There may be many problems with it, but the intentions are there to make a functioning and good combat system, and I think they've succeeded in this effort. I've heard many people complaining in their reviews saying that it's very difficult to take out multiple enemies at once, and I disagree with this. I've been against many large groups of guards before in this game, and it's worked out perfectly fine. At the beginning of the game, I was killed basically all the time, and I wasn't that great at the combat system whatsoever, but over time I just played the game more, you just kind of get better at it, and you get better at taking on larger amounts of enemies, and higher level enemies, and it's basically like any other game. So saying that the combat system is way too difficult is based on personal experience. My personal experience with the combat has been a very good one, because I've been playing the game quite a lot. I've gotten to grips with all the mechanics of the combat system. I really personally like the combat system in Assassin's Creed Origins. It's not as polished as it could be. I feel like in the next game they should work on polishing the overall look of it and making it look a bit more smooth, but as for now, the combat system in AC Origins really is great. There's a lot of abilities that you can use, a lot of things you can do in the combat to use to your advantage. I'll be going over the skills later in this video in a separate section, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I feel that the combat system is functional opposed to looking good, which I prefer over an animation based combat system which looks good but doesn't function awfully well whatsoever. The combat in Origins is really good, and it's definitely one of its funnest features. I'm not going to talk too long about the stealth, because it's quite self-explanatory. It's very similar to other stealth systems, but the stealth system in Assassin's Creed Origins is not as good as it could have been. In fact, I think it's one of the worst features of the gameplay in Assassin's Creed Origins. My main problem with the stealth in this game is that the detection is completely off, whereas in other games, it would give you a chance to kind of get away if an enemy were to glance at you. In Origins, straight away, as soon as they see you in their line of vision, they go and attack you instantly. Now, I know this is more realistic in a sense. That's an argument that you could definitely use. However, from a video game standpoint, it just makes the stealth system infuriating whenever you're just trying to casually play the game. Personally, I don't use stealth an awful lot, so I can't comment that much on it. You know, maybe if there's someone that's better at the stealth system, they can make a comment and say that it's not actually as bad as it appears to be. However, from my personal experience, the stealth system has not been as good as it has been in previous Assassin's Creed games. One thing that I do like is that there's a lot more tools to use at your disposal, such as firebombs, sleep darts, poison, all that good stuff that makes the stealth system that more in-depth and more customizable. So if you want to use sleep darts, you can do that. Obviously, you have bow and arrow as well, and you have the hidden blades. There's a lot more tools at your disposal than there were in previous Assassin's Creed games. So if you want to get creative with the way you kill your enemies in stealth, then that's perfectly fine. That's one of the good features. However, these tools aren't necessarily a byproduct of the stealth system itself. They're their own mechanics. You can use sleep darts in any situation you want, for example. So the stealth system without these tools would be kind of bland. Yet it's difficult to make a stealth system that is actually interesting yet doesn't rely on tools. It's kind of a paradox with stealth systems in video games. It's very difficult to make a stealth system that actually works and is fun, and Assassin's Creed Origins will do just fine. I just don't think it's as good as other stealth systems that were in Assassin's Creed. Going back to detection, I do think it's one of the main problems in Assassin's Creed, especially if you're just crouching and an enemy turns around randomly. They'll see you instantly, and you'll have no chance to even get away and hide in a better place. In the other Assassin's Creed games, there was a detection meter that filled up, and it was kind of more sensitive when you were in a restricted area, but in Assassin's Creed Origins, as soon as an enemy looks at you, they're gonna try and kill you straight away, which is just really annoying. It's probably my main concern with the stealth system. In a future game, if they were to, you know, increase the time it took for an enemy to realize you were there, then that would kind of make the stealth system a lot more forgiving. I get there's meant to be an element of difficulty to it, but when it comes to the point where the stealth system barely even works and you might as well just fight all of the enemies opposed to trying to use stealth, that's when it becomes a problem. Although I feel like all these problems are due to my personal skill when it comes to stealth. I rarely ever use stealth, so it's maybe just because I'm not used to using the stealth system in Assassin's Creed Origins. If there's someone in the comment section that uses stealth as their predominant gameplay style, then give me some tips in the comment section below. Let me know if you like the stealth or not, and if it actually works, because I don't know if I'm just really shit. Lastly, I think the stealth system focuses less on hiding spots, which is something that I find kind of strange. In Assassin's Creed, hiding spots have always been a very important part of the stealth. You can lure enemies over to a hiding spot and assassinate them quietly, but in Assassin's Creed Origins, they feel kind of redundant. Like, there's not very many hiding spots that you can use to your advantage. They're placed in very awkward ways, so they're not very useful whatsoever, and they don't really coincide with guard patrols. So there's never really any times where I feel the need to use hiding spots in Origins. Even when you get detected, you can kind of just run away and the enemies will just forget about you. Whereas in other games, you had to use a hiding spot to be able to get away from the guards. In this, you could just basically walk in the opposite direction, you'll be fine. Overall, the stealth system in Assassin's Creed Origins isn't perfect. I'd say it's one of the worst things about the game. It really doesn't work awfully well, and it's not really that enjoyable to use either. I much prefer just going down the combat approach, but I just don't like the stealth system in Assassin's Creed Origins. It could have been better, and there's definitely games that have done stealth a lot better. Although if they were to tweak a few things about it and maybe change the rate of detection from the enemies, I think that it would be a bit more usable. A huge part of Assassin's Creed Origins, especially in the endgame, are the weapons and outfits you can acquire by doing certain activities in the open world. This is part of the new RPG progression system that's been added into Assassin's Creed Origins, in which you need to do quests and other special tasks to get certain weapons and outfits. The higher your player character level, or the higher the mission is that you complete, the higher the rewards are going to be. So usually towards the end of the game, you start getting the higher level outfit and gears, and at the beginning you start off with the base level 1 weapons and outfits. It's a pretty standard system that's in every RPG, and it's also implemented to some degree in most games, especially if they're open world. There's always got to be a good progression system, and Assassin's Creed Origins is no different. Doing quests or things in the open world reward you with powerful gear and weapons, and as you get to a higher level, the gear and weapons you collect get more and more powerful. There are 8 archetypes of weapons in Assassin's Creed Origins, these being regular swords, sickle swords, heavy blunts, dual blades, heavy bladed, scepters, spears, and unarmed. So there is definitely a variety of fighting styles in Assassin's Creed Origins, because each of these archetypes of weapons have a different way of attacking. There are also 4 different types of bow in the game, these being the hunter bow, the light bow, the warrior bow, and the predator bow. So not only are there lots of melee weapons for you to use, but there's also a lot of ranged weapons too. Now bear in mind you can only use 2 bows at once. I usually favour the hunter bow and the warrior bow, but you can use any combination you want. So there's definitely a lot of variation for the different weapons you can use in this game. And that's where the beauty of the RPG progression system comes into things, because you have so many different archetypes of weapons, different rarities of weapons, and different power level of weapons as well. So as you progress through the game, your weapons are only going to get more interesting and more powerful. This extends the endgame content quite a lot for Assassin's Creed Origins, because it means you're going to keep trying to get the better gear and trying to get the best gear in the game. There's always something more to work towards, and I think that's where the loot and progression system works very well for weapons in Assassin's Creed Origins. It's not too grindy. It's not where you have to, keep grinding for the same weapon, doing the same thing over and over again. Obviously there are money farming spots in the game, but you don't have to do these to get the best weapons in the game. You have a fair chance of getting some of the best weapons just from random drops in the open world, which means so long as you just play the game normally and do a few side quests every now and then, and maybe a few bandit camps, you have a high chance of getting very powerful gear and weapons. The same thing can be said for outfits in the game. The higher rarity the outfit, the more it's going to cost in a shop, the harder the quest is going to be to get it, and the more steps there are going to be to unlocking the outfit. Take the Black Hood outfit for example. You get this outfit from killing all of the Falakes in the open world and collecting all of the keys. Remember that you need to be about level 40 to kill the final boss, so it does take quite a lot of leveling up. Then you do a quest where you basically kill a bunch of crocodiles on an island, and then the woman gives you a location to a chest. In this chest is the Black Hood outfit. Now bear in mind that this quest began right at the beginning of the game when you killed the first Falake leader, and then the rest of the Falakes basically wanted you dead. It took you all the way from near the beginning of the game to get to level 40 to get the best weapons to take on these bosses, and then you finally get the outfit. This shows that the higher rarity of the outfit, the more difficult it is to get. This shows how the progression system also affects the obtaining of outfits in the game as well. So literally everything, your gear, your weapons, and your outfits are all affected by the RPG progression system that's put in place in the game. I think this is a good thing, because it means that you need to level up in order to get the best gear in the game. Other games would kind of give you the best gear, the best outfits, just through playing the main story, and then you kind of end it there. Whereas this game extends the game into the end game by making you do side quests and more difficult activities to get the best stuff, which is how an RPG should do it really. The game doesn't end with the main story. The game ends when you complete everything there is to do in the open world and you get all the best gear and the best outfits, which usually takes quite a long time. So the lifespan of Assassin's Creed Origins is immediately more than previous Assassin's Creed games. And who doesn't want to be able to enjoy a game for a longer period of time than usual? That's why I think the way outfits, weapons, and gear and how they're awarded is handled in Assassin's Creed Origins is very, very good. It keeps the game fun, it keeps the game having things to work towards constantly, and it overall improves the lifespan of the game, which means you're going to be wanting to play it for longer to get that best armor, weapons, and gear. I think Assassin's Creed has made a great transition into the RPG genre, and I cannot wait to see what they do with this RPG format in future upcoming DLC and future games. I'm extremely happy with their transition into the RPG genre. I think it was the saving grace of Assassin's Creed, and I'm very happy with how it was carried out. Although, you know, Ubisoft, maybe we can have some better outfits in the future, you know, maybe in the next DLC, give us some better outfits, because they're not the best in Assassin's Creed Origins, not gonna lie. But Assassin's Creed Origins is a really good RPG, and that's all that matters. The skill tree in Assassin's Creed Origins is by far one of the most impressive I've seen in any RPG in recent years, simply because it's so versatile and allows for any style of play you want. The skill tree is split up into 3 main sections: the Hunter tree, which focuses on bows and stealth, the Warrior skill tree, which obviously focuses on combat, and the Seer skill tree, which focuses on an array of different things. It's kind of like a miscellaneous skill tree, although it's very useful nonetheless. It's very important to use these skill trees to determine which playstyle you're going to be using. I first went through the process of putting all my ability points into the Warrior skill tree, because I thought that combat is the most important part of the game for me. It's basically my main playstyle. Opposed to using stealth, I kind of just go in there and kill all of the enemies in combat. So obviously the Warrior skill tree was the most useful for me. The Warrior skill tree has abilities like regeneration, charge heavy attack, parry, all of which are very useful perks in their own right. The Hunter skill tree also has good abilities like Arrow Retriever, Bow Bearer, and Bow Fury. The Seer skill tree is okay, but it doesn't make that many drastic changes to the gameplay of the game, aside from being able to tame animals or buy chariots from stores. It's just an alright skill tree. It's kind of miscellaneous in a way. The main reason the skill tree in Assassin's Creed Origins is so good is because it is very versatile. It's not just a straight tree downwards like other RPGs. Instead, it's more of a big loop that goes round. If you get some skills in some areas, you'll unlock some skills in other areas quicker. It basically just means you can get to your favorite perks or the perks you want the most without having to go through pointless ones. Obviously, there are a few barriers. Certain perks can only be bought after buying other ones, but that's just how skill trees work. You kind of work to get to the progression, and you get to the end of the skill tree, and that's kind of where the best perks are. Although the skill tree in Origins definitely is better than other games because it isn't a straight line down, as I said before. This means that there are multiple different pathways to one ability, which means you can get your favorite abilities a lot quicker. And that is the success of the skill tree in Assassin's Creed Origins. Not only does it allow you to customize your Bayek to however you want and use whatever playstyle you want, but it also allows you to get to the skills you want a lot faster, meaning that you don't have to waste time and ability points on pointless skills. And that's why the skill tree in Assassin's Creed Origins is among some of the best I've seen recently. So I glossed over side quests earlier in this review, but they really do bring the open world to life, and they extend the content of the game drastically. Other Assassin's Creed games have attempted to do side quests in a meaningful way, but they have failed time and time again, and Origins really does get it right. They're really nice side quests that sometimes even link with the main story of the game. Not only this, but they feel meaningful. You feel like you're helping actual characters. Again, it's not as in-depth as a game like Horizon Zero Dawn. I've never seen a game do side quests in such a way that makes it feel as good as it does in Horizon Zero Dawn, with the characters they include in their side quests and the emotion they include in their side quests. But that comes at the expense of having less overall side quests in the open world. Origins has gone down the more quantity route. It still has quite a high degree of quality. However, this definitely has more side quests than games like Horizon Zero Dawn, whereas it has less depth to them. Horizon Zero Dawn side quests all feel very cinematic. They all feel feel very polished, whereas Assassin's Creed Origins doesn't quite have that level of polish, but it's got more side quests. Right now, I'm not expecting the level of polish that Guerrilla achieved with Horizon Zero Dawn for an Assassin's Creed game. They've only just really brought the franchise back from the dead. I think they were playing it quite safe with Assassin's Creed Origins. They're just easing us into the RPG aspects. Maybe in the future we'll get the same polish as Horizon Zero Dawn. I'd love to see it, but I just doubt it's going to happen. I still do love the side quests in Assassin's Creed Origins though. They're really, really nice. You meet some quite charismatic characters on your journeys, and there's quite a few that stand out to me. One side quest in particular is when you track down someone called the Son of Ra. Now, I'm convinced that this guy is a sage in the Assassin's Creed storyline, simply because 1, he has a confession, and 2, the way he talks as if he believes himself a god really leads me to believe that he's some form of sage. I mean, why would some random NPC in a side quest have a confession if he wasn't an important character? I think this guy is definitely a sage. And if you don't know what a sage is, if you're not following the Assassin's Creed storyline and you're just here if you want to see if Assassin's Creed's a good game, then I wouldn't worry about it. This is for the people that kind of follow the story of Assassin's Creed. I really liked this side quest in particular though because of the altercation that Bayek had with the Son of Ra, and after the quest he was kind of left questioning his own morals. This is the type of side quest that I want to see more of in the next Assassin's Creed game or upcoming DLCs. It's the type of side quest that feels very, very meaningful. Fair enough, I like the side quest where you go and kill a bandit camp or you go and save someone, but the quests like this are the ones that leave you with the most impact, and that's why it stood out the most to me. Heavily story-driven side quests like this are very, very good, and I think there definitely needs to be more of these in the next Assassin's Creed game. I recommend you guys go play this one if you haven't already. Where Assassin's Creed Origins really shines in terms of side content is the open world activities to do. Things like bandit camps, phalanxes, tombs, stone circles. They're really, really the meat and potatoes of this game. I especially love just walking through all of the tombs in the game. They're just really, really interesting. It's a nice break away from the huge open world. You're kind of in this very dark tomb. You have to figure out some puzzles. They're very easy puzzles, but they are puzzles nonetheless. I love how the light from the torch dances off the walls as you're walking through these tombs, and it's just you alone with your thoughts exploring this dark area. Not only is all of these side content in Assassin's Creed extremely fun, but there is a lot to do. You won't be running out of stuff to do anytime soon if you've just recently got the game. Obviously, we have half of a country to explore. We know this. It's Lower Egypt, and it's all full of side quests. Like, there is so much content. I haven't even finished everything yet, and I've been playing the game for a good almost 100 hours. If I were to have any problems with the side content, it would be that a lot of the stuff is marked out. Now, there's a huge emphasis on exploration in Assassin's Creed Origins already, but the places in which there's treasure, it's always marked out on the map. I'd much prefer it if it was left to the player to find these chests, opposed to having all of the places marked on the map so you know where everything is at all times. Also, some side quests do feel like filler, which is kind of disappointing. Most of the side quests do have some meaning to them, but there's the odd one you get that just feels like it's, you know, go kill a bunch of enemies for this person and just do random shit for no reason. And I would have much preferred them to focus on certain quests and polishing the quests they already have, opposed to trying to just make lots and lots of quests in the open world. Quality over quantity is a very important part with quests in RPGs, and if you have too many quests, then the quality of each one will diminish quite a bit. So you can definitely see this in Assassin's Creed Origins. Some quests were just really bland and boring, and that's because they tried to make so many in the huge open world they had. And that's why in the next Assassin's Creed game, I want them to focus more on making quests like the Son of Ra quest that I mentioned earlier, because it feels like it has meaning and purpose and relevance to the overall story. Whereas some quests that are like, go take out a bandit camp or defend this guy's brother, they just feel like filler. As for things like the Gladiator Arena and the Hippodrome, the Gladiator Arena is actually really, really fun. I do recommend it. It's a great piece of side content. The Hippodrome, on the other hand, is apparently really bad. I haven't actually played any of it myself, but from what I've heard, it controls really badly, it glitches quite a lot, and that's kind of disappointing. Although I wasn't holding out much hope for a chariot racing system, it's just an extra thing to put in the game. Overall, the side quests and side content in Assassin's Creed Origins really, really is strong. It's definitely one of the best parts of the game. They spent so long crafting this amazing open world and putting so much side content in it, and it's really, really impressive. This is to be expected because it is the same team that made Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which was also very heavy on exploration and side content. So if there's anything this game can be praised heavily on, it's its amazing open world, world and the content that it's filled with, even if there are hiccups here and there. I just want to say before I get into this section of the video that it's going to contain heavy spoilers, including spoilers for the ending of Assassin's Creed Origins. If you haven't finished the game yet, then I recommend skipping this section and just going straight to the end. Although I already did say at the beginning that this will contain heavy amounts of spoilers, and there's already been minor spoilers dotted throughout this video. But it's just one final warning for anyone that didn't get the memo. Anyway, the story of Assassin's Creed Origins is overall very strong. I really enjoyed it, and I didn't want to have this review to be a knee-jerk reaction. That's why I've waited so long since completing the game. I completed the game, and I didn't want to just have the reaction of, oh my god, this is amazing, and then suddenly a few weeks later, I just thought it was shit like I did with other Assassin's Creed games. But it turns out that I do actually think that the Assassin's Creed Origins story was overall very strong. It does begin off slightly convoluted because you feel as if these two sections are interlinked. I'm talking about a scene within the Bent Pyramid where Bayek kills Radjek, and then the scene where you're dropped into the fighting at the beginning of the game. These two sections actually happen at completely different points in time, but at the time of playing it, I did not realize at all. Assassin's Creed Origins has this strange flashback, flash forward system. It's the way of how it tells its story. It's really strange. Basically, whenever you come to kill a new target, there's like a weird flash forward or a weird flashback to a different point in time. I still don't really know how it works properly, but you kind of get used to it as the game goes along. The game also begins fairly dull, but picks up by the time you kill your first target. It starts off really weak actually, but overall the story is incredibly strong. I really love Bayek's overall story. It's a really tragic tale of how he's trying to avenge his son Khemu, and he blames himself for the death of his son. It's quite interesting because the story is based around revenge again, and this could explain why all the other assassins are drawn to the Order through vengeance, because Bayek originally formed the Assassin Order because he wanted to avenge his son's death. This is similar to how Ezio wanted to avenge the death of his father and brothers, how Connor wanted to avenge the death of his mother and the burning of his village, and how Arno wanted to avenge the death of Monsieur de la Serre. It seems like the Order was formed through revenge, and this is why all of the assassins are drawn to the Order through vengeance. Either that, or the only stories they can write are ones that surround vengeance. I also really like the way Bayek and Aya's relationship is handled, not only because it carries on from Desert Oath, which is actually a really good novel, but also because it's just done in a very realistic way. Whereas Arno and Elise were very robotic in the way they showed their affections to each other, and it was a very cliche relationship, Bayek and Aya are more realistic in how you would find two people to be if they were married. You can definitely see that Bayek does love Aya, and Aya does love Bayek to a degree, although throughout the game you realize that definitely Bayek loves Aya more than Aya loves Bayek. He shows way more affection for her, and he has much more want to be with her. Aya basically spends the whole game with Cleopatra, so she spends a lot of time telling Bayek how she can't be with him and how she has to be with Cleopatra helping her. This eventually causes Bayek and Aya to drift apart, which ultimately leads to the formation of the Brotherhood, which is one of the best scenes in the whole game. Seriously, this scene paired with the Ezio's family origins theme, it just sounds so good. It's where Bayek and Aya both come to the realization that they cannot be together, and they have to dedicate their lives to the safeguarding of the free will of the people. They then denounce their roles as husband and wife and Medjay, and they then become hidden ones. This is basically just another term for assassin, but the term assassin hasn't really been thought of yet. Anyway, this scene is by far my favorite scene in the whole game, and it really is great. It shows the formation of the Brotherhood and how it didn't just happen in a split second. There's the foundations there, you know, they're called the hidden ones. They know they need some form of order to help the people, but it's not immediately called the assassins, and the tenants aren't there already. This scene is then ended beautifully with the eagle skull dropping into the sand, forming the assassin logo. This section is fan service because obviously they didn't look at the eagle skull and was like, that's a good idea for a fucking insignia. And there's the section that you play as Aya. This is basically a naval mission, and it begins with a pretty good scene. It's where she's contemplating throwing the Medjay badge off of the boat because she doesn't want to let go of that life, but she knows she has to. In the end, she decides that she will throw the Medjay badge off, cast it aside, and she will now go on this new life. This section of the game took me by surprise completely. I thought the game was going to end there, and yet we were having a naval mission with Aya. It was a nice throwback to AC4, having the last mission of the game being a naval mission. However, it felt like all of this was crammed into a very, very short space of time, although it had to be done to conclude Aya's story in a way. When you've done this section, you find yourself in Rome, and you're hunting Septimius, which is the last living member of the Order of Ancients. This also carried on that feeling of everything being crammed into a very, very small space of time, and also Septimius has the fucking, I don't know, Morning Star of Eden. Like, what the fuck is that? What's that? Where'd that come from? After a pretty difficult boss battle, you have a confession with him, and that basically concludes the Order of Ancients. They're all dead, you know, all the ones from Egypt anyway, they're all dealt with, and that basically closes the hunt for all of the Order of Ancients. I would have liked for there to be more Aya assassinations, especially considering there's some targets in the game that we don't even see Aya kill. She just goes off and kills them by herself. I feel like this is how the Aya memories should have been done in the game, opposed to having random naval missions where you play as Aya. I would have much rather have maybe one naval mission, but have the others where she hunts down the Order of Ancients herself, because we know there's some targets that she killed. This then leads into the famous assassination of Julius Caesar. This is talked about a lot in Assassin's Creed before, with, you know, Brutus being present, and this definitely is the case. It's really cool to see this scene here, especially considering it's mentioned in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. My only problem is that when fucking Brutus stabs Julius Caesar, it's not using the dagger of Brutus, even if apparently this was the same dagger that was used to kill Julius Caesar. These aren't the same two fucking daggers, man. Don't fucking try and lie to me, Ubisoft. Don't try and lie to me. Overall, I did like the section with Julius Caesar, because it was such a famous moment in Assassin's Creed history, and being able to see it firsthand with Brutus dealing the final blow, it was really, really cool. It's a shame he wasn't wearing the armor of Brutus, though, even though on the wiki it says he should have been wearing it. But I can look past the lore discrepancies here and there, because it's a common assumption, but a bit romantic. I get it, you know, I understand how it is, you know, sometimes you gotta retcon shit for it to be, you know, more effective and more historically accurate. I get it. Fucking Amar Zazier, head of content, my fucking ass. This scene then leads to Aya confronting Cleopatra after killing Julius Caesar. This scene is really nice because there's nothing Cleopatra can do in this situation. She was once this powerful pharaoh that promised to give Aya power and promised vengeance against the Order of Ancients, and now Aya is the one that has the power, and there's nothing Cleopatra can do about it. It's also funny because Cleopatra tries to hit Aya and it looks dumb, like she puts no effort into it whatsoever. What the fuck's going on? After this, there's another flash forward where Aya is basically writing to Bayek. Now this bit really is good. It's a really nice monologue from Aya, basically telling Bayek how Julius Caesar's dead and Septimius is dead and how she plans to take Rome with the Hidden Ones. And it also shows the very first assassin initiation ceremony in which one of Bayek's first apprentices does the cutting off the ring finger. And obviously this becomes tradition for assassins in the future. There's a section during this monologue that I really like, which is basically where the assassins are running across the rooftops and they free this child from almost being killed by what seems to be his caretaker. After saving the child, one of the assassin apprentices asks if they should bring him back to the bureau, and Bayek simply answers with, "No, I'll walk him home." This is a good contrast to the beginning of the game, because the whole reason why Khemu died is because Bayek refused to walk him home. Obviously he regrets the decision he made, and he's now making things right by taking this kid home instead of indoctrinating him into the assassins. It then flicks back to Aya, and there's a massive plot twist. Opposed to being called Aya, she now goes by the name of Amunet. Probably should have seen this coming from a good while away, but if you don't know who Amunet is, it was the assassin underneath the sanctuary in Assassin's Creed 2 who killed Cleopatra with a poison snake. And then that's where the game ends. We come back to Bayek, he's in Memphis, he's got his little bureau set up, and then there's nothing left of the story. We have to wait till the next DLC expansion. As for Bayek, I just want to briefly say that I really like him as a character. He's probably the most emotionally diverse character we've ever had in Assassin's Creed, simply because he has such an array display of emotion. Other assassins would usually just have one emotion they were constantly, and that was what they were known for. But when I think of Bayek, I think of an emotionally diverse character. You know, when he's angry, he's very, very angry. Although sometimes he can have a joke as well, like when he's messing around with Aya, making funny faces, making her laugh. He's just a very realistic character, and for that reason, I really do like Bayek. Obviously, to me, he has nowhere near as much depth as a character like Ezio, but he could get there. If we get a few more games with Bayek, then I definitely think that he could be one of my favorite characters in Assassin's Creed. He's had such a strong first game, and if he had more games, then I definitely think we could flesh out his character, have more experiences with him, and we'd be more emotionally attached to him overall. I'd say he's definitely in my top 5 assassins in Assassin's Creed, and that definitely tells you something about his character. He's clearly done well to some degree. If I like him that much, that even after a few weeks of playing the game, he's one of my favorite assassins in Assassin's Creed. Also, I just want to say that Abu Bakr Salim did an incredible job playing Bayek. The acting in this game is tremendous, especially the first scene in the Bent Pyramid where Bayek kills Rudjek. It's such a good scene, leaves me with chills every single time. Overall, the story for Assassin's Creed Origins is very good. It felt very cinematic, and I enjoyed a lot of the time playing it. It definitely had some pacing issues. There were definitely some pacing issues in the story of the game. Things could have been done differently. There could have been sections that were felt less rushed. And I think with the next game, they need to focus just more on polishing the overall story so it flows a lot better. Sometimes in Assassin's Creed Origins, it felt very cluttered, like too much stuff was happening at once, and if they strip away a lot of the bullshit that went on in the story, it would flow very, very nicely. Overall, the story's great, the characters are really nice, and I cannot wait to see what the future of Assassin's Creed is going to be. Hopefully we get another sequel with Bayek, but only time will tell. The modern day in Assassin's Creed Origins is a perfect example of a story that has so much potential. We've got a new protagonist, we have new surroundings, we have a new animus, we have a new ancestor. Things could go so well for Assassin's Creed if they make this modern day storyline work. All it needs is a few more games, progress Layla as a character, and there could be some really nice stuff. At the moment, I don't necessarily love her character, but I don't hate her either. She's not on the level of Desmond, because I personally really like Desmond as a character. She's not on that level or anything, but I feel like she could get to it just with a bit of progression. That's all you need with characters like this. We've been introduced to a new character, it's a clean slate, all they need is to progress her more, introduce her to the other characters from the modern day, and integrate her into the modern day storyline, and then I believe she can progress into her own amazing character. There's definitely potential there. I mean, she's already been introduced to William Miles, so they definitely have plans for her character.
Those don't need to be your last words.
Who the fuck are you?
Does the name William Miles ring a bell?
Yeah, that's not fucking, that's not William Miles, man. That's some random fucking guy that Ubisoft probably got from The Office. They couldn't get John Delancey to play William Miles. They were like, oh, just get the guy from The Office. You know, he can, you know, random American guy. He can voice William Miles. They won't notice, man. They won't notice. What are you doing, Ubisoft? Regardless of this, I think the modern day in Assassin's Creed Origins isn't amazing, but it plants the seed for something that could be very good. Kind of like the modern day in Assassin's Creed 1. It definitely has its good aspects. Like you can read emails as Layla and she makes comments about stuff that's happened previously in the modern day. Obviously William Miles is there, and in the future I feel like, you know, Layla's definitely going to meet Rebecca and Sean, maybe Bishop from the other Assassin's Creed games, and then everything will link up nicely and she could possibly be a good character. Because right now, she has charisma, she has a passion for history, and obviously she's interested in the battle between the Assassins and Templars, but right now, there's nothing to her character necessarily. This will come through character development as the games go on, and I'm very excited to see what the modern day will do with Layla, and what turn the story is going to take overall. So right now, it's nothing special, but with time, there could be a good story crafted here. Anyway, that is the end of the review. I worked super fucking hard on this. This has been about 3 days of work and editing and recording and writing down my script and my notes. It's been absolutely insane. It's a 40-minute long review. It's probably one of the longest reviews I've done on this channel. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe for more gaming news, content, and reviews in the future. I can't believe I'm reviewing I can't believe I just reviewed Assassin's Creed Origins. Like, it's been since January 2016 we got the very first leak for the game, and it's been so long that we've been covering it, making news on it. We finally got to play it, and now this is my conclusive review of the game. I put so much time and effort into this. I really do hope you guys got enjoyment out of it, and if you could share it around, it would help me a fuck ton. Literally, the other day I spent 10 hours of solid working on this. It was absolutely ridiculous. That's the most I've worked on a video recently, and I'm just really proud of this review. Origins is an absolutely amazing game. What a game to come out on the 10-year anniversary of Assassin's Creed. What a game to bring the franchise back from the dead, and what a game to bring the respect back to Assassin's Creed, because this game is actually getting good reviews and people are actually enjoying the game, which is amazing to see. I want to thank everyone that worked on Assassin's Creed Origins for making such an awesome game to bring the franchise back. You always outdo yourselves. You know, Black Flag was amazing, Assassin's Creed Origins is really good as well. You made an amazing game world, a really nice story with great characters, and it would be foolish not to make another game with Bayek. You know, we really need another game with Bayek. It'd just be the way to go, you know. Give Assassin's Creed a face again. I genuinely feel like Bayek and the story that's been set up in Assassin's Creed Origins is the way to go with Assassin's Creed. Make another character like Ezio, you know, that we can think of Assassin's Creed and then we think of Bayek. You know, Assassin's Creed is officially back in my eyes. The past games have been really bad, the last few years have been pretty dark, and Assassin's Creed Origins has brought it back. So thanks to everyone that made the game. You've made an awesome game, and I hope everyone that watched this video enjoyed it. Be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe for more gaming news, content, and reviews in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one.